Welcome back to the channel, where we're diving deep into some serious global shakeups. Today, we're zooming in on a wild twist in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia's air force is taking a massive hit, losing dozens of warplanes, and now there's buzz about whether Moscow might do the unthinkable, buy fighter jets from China to patch up its battered fleet. We're talking about a devastating Ukrainian drone strike, Russia's struggling defense industry, and the potential for a game-changing shift in Russia-China military ties. Let's break it all down, from the jaw-dropping losses to the big what if of Chinese jets and what this means for the global defense scene. In early June 2025, Ukraine unleashed a game-changing drone offensive called Spiderweb, targeting multiple Russian air bases with surgical precision. Ukraine's security service claimed the strikes took out or damaged 41 Russian military aircraft, including some of Moscow's crown jewels, an A-50U airborne early warning plane, and a slew of Tu-95Ms, Tu-22M3, and Tu-160 strategic bombers, which carry long-range cruise missiles and even nuclear payloads. Ukrainian officials valued the losses at a whopping $7 billion, with President Zelensky calling it a brilliant success, boasting that about 34% of Russia's strategic cruise missile carriers got hit. This wasn't just a numbers game. Ukrainian drones reached deep into Russian territory, some striking bases as far as Siberia, exposing major weaknesses in Russia's airbase security and air defenses. Western analysts dubbed it Russia's Pearl Harbor for its operational and psychological impact. On top of this, Russia's Air Force has been grinding down over 15 months of war, losing around 100 frontline fighters and strike jets like Su-30SM, Su-35S, and Su-34 bombers since the 2022 invasion, roughly 10% of its pre-war fighter fleet. These losses are squeezing Russia hard, forcing it to pull from reserves and shift units around. If this pace keeps up, experts warn Russia could struggle to sustain air operations over Ukraine, raising the question of how Moscow plans to rebuild its air power. Can Russia replace these planes on its own? Normally, it would lean on its domestic industry to churn out advanced fighters like the Su-35S Flanker E or the Su-57 Felon stealth jet. But sanctions, supply chain chaos, and limited production capacity are throwing up major roadblocks. Western sanctions have choked off access to critical high-tech components like advanced electronics, crippling Russia's ability to build modern jets. A 2024 report revealed that Su-57 production was halted because Russia couldn't get Western-made flight control parts and calibrators. The Telegraph noted that Russia's military industry relies heavily on these components, and workarounds like smuggling or using Chinese substitutes are slow and expensive. As a result, only about 30 Su-57s are in service, many still test models, far from the numbers needed for Russia's 1,000-strong fighter fleet. Su-35 production limps along, but even these jets need some foreign parts, and their combat losses in Ukraine have dented their reputation. Russia has redirected export-bound Su-35s and is upgrading old Su-27 and Su-30 airframes, but these are band-aid fixes. The bomber situation is even bleaker. Tu-95Ms and Tu-22M3 production lines shut down decades ago, and only a trickle of Tu-160M bombers are built each year. Restoring old bombers from storage is barely feasible due to their age. Russia's industry is stretched thin, and with losses piling up, it's facing a shrinking air force that can't be quickly replenished. This brings us to a wild idea. Could Russia buy Chinese fighter jets? For decades, Russia was the one selling planes to China, like Su-27s and Su-35s. But China's defense industry has leveled up, producing jets like the Chengdu J-10C, a 4.5 generation multi-role fighter with cutting-edge radar and missiles, and the J-20 Mighty Dragon, a 5th generation stealth jet rivaling the US F-22. With Russia's production in trouble, some analysts are floating the possibility of Moscow turning to Beijing for J-10Cs or even J-20s to plug the gaps. Technically, Chinese jets could be a lifeline. China's production lines are active, with J-10Cs already exported to Pakistan, and their advanced avionics and weapons, like the PL-15 missile, could boost Russia's capabilities. A J-20 deal could give Russia a stealth edge its Su-57 hasn't delivered. But here's the catch. There are massive political and practical hurdles. China has stayed out of supplying lethal weapons for Russia's Ukraine war, with its foreign ministry declaring in April 2025 that it's never provided such arms, calling claims groundless. Beijing plays the neutral card, pushing for a ceasefire, and Xi Jinping is wary of being too tied to Russia's war, fearing Western sanctions. Selling fighters would be a bold move, openly tying China to Russia's campaign and risking global backlash. Plus, integrating Chinese jets would mean retraining Russian pilots and crews, building new maintenance systems, and dealing with compatibility issues, a logistical nightmare. Russia's pride and security concerns also make it hesitant to rely on foreign designs, preferring homegrown solutions even if they're slower. If Russia did go for Chinese jets, it would be a massive shift with big implications. It would flip the script, making Russia an arms client and cementing its role as China's junior partner, giving Beijing leverage over Moscow's defense and geopolitical moves. It could deepen military ties with joint training or shared tech, potentially creating a more China-led security setup in Eurasia. For China, selling jets would show confidence in its tech and a willingness to back Russia against the West, but it would risk sanctions and strained ties with other nations. NATO would see it as China picking a side, possibly ramping up aid to Ukraine. Countries like India, which uses Russian jets but rivals China, would be uneasy, as would Japan and South Korea, given joint Russia-China patrols. But as of mid-2025, there's no solid evidence of such a deal. Neither Moscow nor Beijing has hinted at it, and Putin is pushing domestic production, like missiles and drones, over foreign buys. Ex-posts speculating about Chinese jets reflect chatter, not confirmed plans. Experts are split on whether this could happen. While the war rages, China's caution about lethal aid makes a deal unlikely, with the CIA noting Beijing doesn't want to be seen as fully aligned with Russia. Russia's leadership also avoids admitting its industry struggles. But if losses keep mounting, Moscow might have no choice. With Western nations off the table and allies like Iran or North Korea unable to supply advanced jets, China would be Russia's only option. Analysts suggest that post-ceasefire, China might be more open to helping Russia rebuild, with less risk of backlash. A think tank report noted that after the war, Russia's need for imports will be high, and Chinese jets like the J-10C or older models could be a quick fix, letting China showcase its arms globally. For now, though, it's all speculative, driven by Russia's dire straits and China's growing prowess. In conclusion, Russia's air force is in a tough spot, hammered by losses and limited by sanctions. Chinese jets could theoretically help, but politics, logistics, and pride make it a long shot during the war. Still, the idea highlights a potential flip in Russia-China ties, with Beijing as the rising arms power. Whether this happens will depend on the war's course and their strategic choices, and it's something to keep an eye on. Thanks for watching. Do you think Russia will lean on China for jets or tough it out? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more defense updates. Catch you next time.